If you've been an NBA fan for at least the last decade, you are plenty old enough to remember just how bad the trust the process 76ers were, especially in the beginning of their rebuild. In just 2 short seasons, the Sixers went from a respectable middle-of-the-road playoff team to a offloading any sense of veteran presence and leadership and having one of the worst records in NBA history. But today we're going to be talking about how they got to this point. And as I welcome you back to my channel, thank you for joining me again and welcome you into the 3rd episode of my series where we have been exploring the worst teams in NBA history. Today we follow the Philadelphia 76ers and more specifically the 2015-16 76ers and their journey from the top to the bottom and back up again. Let's go ahead and see where we're at. Obviously, coming out of the 2010s, not everything looked absolutely terrible for Philadelphia. The 76ers did have a tough first-round matchup in 2010 against a newly formed super team in the LeBron-led Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, which obviously they lost rather quickly. I believe it ended up being a 5-game series, but they did have stars to build around, building around young guys like Jrue Holiday, Andre Iguodala, and veterans Elton Brand and Tony Batty. They led a respectable effort in the next season, even a lockout season in 2011-2012. They finished 35-31, which isn't the greatest, but when you put it into perspective of that season, it's not that bad. They made a push into the second round where they would lose to Boston in a 7-game series, but they were just 1 game away from making the conference finals where they would then face off against the Miami Heat if they had done that. However, that offseason is where it all started to go down. Team leader and star Andre Iguodala would leave town to play for the Denver Nuggets, leaving the 76ers without really a form or point to their roster. They didn't have a guy that could lead them. With head coach Doug Collins heading into his 3rd season and very little talent outside of Jrue Holiday, the Sixers limped to a 34-48 finish, missing the playoffs and beginning what looked to be a simple and quick rebuild overall. But after selecting Syracuse guard Michael Carter-Williams 11th overall in the 2013 draft, the Sixers shockingly jumped Jrue Holiday to the New Orleans Pelicans in return for just 1 first-round pick who would eventually be Elfrid Payton, a guy that never played on a Philadelphia roster. With the oldest player on the roster being 6-year veteran Spencer Hawes at just 24 years old, the 76ers obviously dropped drastically in production. After finishing 19-63 in 2013-14 head coach Brett Brown's first year as the head coach, they dumped even more veterans going into the 2014 offseason, boasting a roster of 9 rookies officially signed with contracts on their roster. And outside of Michael Carter-Williams, they were now led by star center at Kentucky, Nerlens Noel, who they viewed as the big man of the foreseeable future, or that's at least what they hoped. The very next year, they didn't get much worse than they were the year before. The Sixers finished 18-64 in 2014, and while improvement had not happened yet, it was kind of an optimistic offseason. With another top pick in the next draft, it seemed that they fully embraced being terrible, however, as they regretfully selected another center with their first pick in Jahlil Okafor this time. The Sixers also quickly traded young point guard Michael Carter-Williams to the Milwaukee Bucks in the same offseason. Now they lacked any point guard leadership outside of a rookie TJ McConnell or young unproven guard Tony Wroten. Obviously, the Sixers became dramatically worse, also having a logjam at the center and power forward position. They came out the gates in 2015 and lost 18 straight games before notching their first win of the season in a 103-91 win over the Lakers. This was not the start of a turnaround for the Centuries, as they would go on another 10-game losing streak before actually winning 3 of their next 6 games. But out of the final 41 games, they managed to win only 6, featuring massive blowouts, multiple 20 to 30 point losses, but also a surprisingly few close games, even multiple overtime matchups and a few triple overtime matchups against the Knicks, Bucks, and Clippers respectively. At this time, this was the lowest we had ever seen an NBA team in recent history, and under head coach Brett Brown, it did obviously get eventually better, but Compared to the Charlotte Bobcats, who finished 7-59 on a shortened season, it seemed like the 76ers were dramatically worse, considering they actually played an entire season. After finishing with a losing record, though, in 28 and 54 in 2016, they did make a leap. They jumped all the way up to 52 and 30 in 2017, making a run into the second round of the playoffs under the leadership of second-year center Joel Embiid. And ironically, out of every draft pick during the process rebuild, Joel Embiid is the only one to turn into a superstar and perennial MVP. And while they have yet to win a championship, they have now appeared in 5 straight playoffs and even making it into the second round pretty much every season. This is a far cry from the 10-72 record they had just 2 years before their first playoff appearance, where they boasted a whopping win percentage of .122%, one of the lowest win percentages we have ever witnessed in NBA history. So while the process was tough for 76ers fans across the world, it has surprisingly paid off in the long run, getting guys like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, quality NBA players, promoting draft picks into successful players who have helped in numerous playoff runs or helped facilitate trades for superstars or stars in return. Fortunately for us, this terrible team has provided a ton of entertainment back in the day. Any NBA or NBA 2K fan with the opportunity for a complete and total rebuild, going from 10-72 to NBA champions, is a fever dream as it feels. However, as you may already know with this series, it can and likely will get worse, as next episode we look into a team that technically does not exist today, the 1998-1999 Vancouver Grizzlies. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching this, and turn post notifications on so you never miss a video, whether that's NBA news, NBA history, or any of my other topics I talk about. Thank you guys for watching this one. I'll see you next time. Peace.